You're listening to the Power Agent Blogcast, empowering agents to elevate their business to the next level.
Challenges are just a guide, leading you, don't run and hide. You've got the heart, you've got the drive, feel it pound, you're alive. Power Agent.
You know that feeling when you're standing at the extreme edge of a high diving board?
Oh, yeah. Terrifying.
Right. And you're staring down at the water, and you tell yourself you're just waiting for the ripples to clear.
Like you just need it to be perfectly still.
Exactly. You grip the edge with your toes, convincing yourself that you're, just waiting for the surface to become flawlessly glass smooth before you finally take the jump.
But the reality is, the longer you stand up there, the colder your muscles get.
The wind picks up, the adrenaline kind of curdles into anxiety.
And eventually you don't jump at all.
Nope. You just quietly turn around, climb back down the ladder, and tell yourself, well, the conditions just weren't right today.
It is a profound, deeply ingrained human behavior.
Yeah.
We possess this incredible ability to convince ourselves that we're being, highly strategic and analytical, when in reality, we're just stalling.
We're just scared of the cold water.
Exactly. We disguise our fear as patience. We dress our hesitation up in a tuxedo and call it prudence.
Welcome to the deep dive. Because that exact psychological mechanism disguising fear as strategy is exactly what we're exploring today.
It's a huge topic.
It really is. We are pulling insights from a really fascinating piece of source material today. It's an article titled Real Estate Leadership, Coaching Agents to Sell in Any Market, along with a few closely related readings.
And, on the surface, this stack of research looks like a highly specific masterclass for real estate brokers.
Right, like just for people trying to drag their sales teams through a brutal market slowdown.
But the underlying psychology here is entirely universal.
Completely.
Our mission today is to uncover the hidden psychological traps that cause even the absolute best professionals to freeze up when external conditions get tough.
We are unpacking the mechanics of self-sabotage, really.
Yeah, why we wait for perfect conditions instead of just, doing the ugly, unglamorous work.
And more importantly, what specific leadership tactics actually break a team out of that paralysis?
Because even if you have never sold a house in your life,
even if you don't know the first thing about interest rates or escrow.
right, the core dilemma we're exploring applies to absolutely anyone trying to navigate a challenging professional landscape.
Yeah, so if you are an entrepreneur facing a funding drought, a freelancer dealing with a dry pipeline, or honestly, even just someone trying to get a difficult personal project off the ground.
This is about that quiet, rational-sounding voice in your head that tells you to just wait.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to solve any kind of performance slump, we have to start by identifying the actual root cause.
And the most shocking revelation in this material is that the real problem isn't the market at all.
No.
The problem is the mind.
It's wild.
Yeah.
But the external illusion is just incredibly powerful.
Let's look at the scene these sources paint. The economic environment shifts, right? The market slows down.
And professionals suddenly find themselves working significantly harder for severely diminishing returns.
The easy wins just evaporate.
Poof. Gone.
And almost overnight, the exact same high-performing individuals who used to aggressively pursue new business are suddenly finding incredibly creative reasons not to pick up the phone.
They start saying things like, I'm just waiting for the Federal Reserve to announce a rate cut.
Or, nobody wants to talk business in the winter. I'll just wait for the spring season.
It all sounds wonderfully logical.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to play devil's advocate for a second here because this is where my own brain gets stuck.
Go for it.
Doesn't it actually make sense to wait for better conditions? I mean, if you're paddling a canoe up a river, why would you exhaust yourself paddling fiercely upstream against the rapids?
Why not just tie off to a tree and wait for the current to change?
Right. Let the tide do the work for you.
It is an incredibly tempting analogy, but that line of thinking fundamentally misunderstands the nature of business environments.
How so?
Waiting for external economic conditions to improve is just guesswork dressed up as strategy. Seriously. You don't actually have a tide chart for the economy. You don't know when or even if that current is going to change in your favor.
So you're just sitting there.
Exactly.
Man.
While you are sitting in your canoe waiting for the perfect tide, someone else is paddling through the rough water, building their strength, and actually reaching the destination.
Wow.
The central thesis here is stark. The market is not the biggest threat to your success. The voice in your own head saying, wait, is the actual threat.
That is a really harsh truth to swallow, especially when those rapids look really dangerous.
It is,
And-
but it's also deeply clarifying because it puts the locus of control back in your hands.
Yeah.
The text brings in this brilliant quote from Robert Collier to anchor this. Success is the sum of small efforts, repeated day in and day out.
Day in and day out, not just when it's sunny.
Exactly. True professional endurance isn't about conjuring some massive, perfectly timed wave of effort the moment the market gets hot.
It's about the daily, deeply unglamorous repetition of fundamental tasks, regardless of the weather.
So as you are listening to this, think about your own projects.
Yeah, think about that major initiative you've been putting off,
How often are you blaming external market conditions?
like the broader economy, or a budget freeze at work, or even just, hey, it's a rainy Tuesday and I feel foggy.
When the actual bottleneck is just your own internal hesitation to face a difficult task?
Man. So once we accept that our own mindset is the enemy in a slowdown, we have to look at how this bleeds into our actual behavior.
The specific behavioral traps.
Right. The sources highlight how this fear of action morphs into this bizarre form of productivity cosplay.
Productivity cosplay, I love that.
Yeah, instead of executing, they wait for the perfect moment. In real estate, this means delaying calls to FSBOs, for sale by owners and expired listings.
They tell their managers, well, I'll start calling these leads when consumer confidence picks up.
And while they wait for this mythical perfect Tuesday morning, the client signs a contract with a competitor who simply possessed the audacity to pick up the phone today.
And the mechanism they use to justify this waiting is truly insidious. It's trap number 2, grading the leads.
Oh, the grading. This is so relatable.
Right. They open up their database, and instead of systematically contacting people, they start grading them.
They look at the data points and rationalize their way out of the work.
Well, this prospect looks overpriced. That one's been on the market for 6 months, must be a problem. This one is too far of a drive.
They systematically cross names off a list until a sprawling page of vibrant opportunities becomes like a single highly curated phone call.
And by the time they whittle it down, their mental battery is completely drained.
They're like, I've done enough analysis today, I'll just make the actual call tomorrow.
Yep.
Yeah. It's exactly like endlessly scrolling Netflix on a Friday night.
Oh, that is the perfect parallel.
Right. You sit down, open the app, and start grading every single movie thumbnail. The critical reviews on that one are mediocre. That one is 3 hours long. I don't have the stamina.
That one's too depressing for my current mood.
You spend a full hour intensely analyzing your options. You drain your decision-making energy so thoroughly that you end up watching absolutely nothing.
You just turn the TV off and go to sleep, completely exhausted from the act of choosing.
It's decision fatigue masking as quality control.
You feel a profound sense of accomplishment because you were cognitively engaged, but you didn't execute anything. Zero forward momentum.
And this paralysis by analysis doesn't just stop at lead generation. It completely corrupts how professionals adapt to a changing market.
Which brings us to trap number 3. They stop trying to get ahead of the market and start frantically chasing it.
The youth soccer analogy used in the text here is just brilliant.
It paints such a vivid picture of reactive strategy.
If you've ever watched 6-year-olds play a game of soccer, they have zero spatial awareness.
None. They do not hold their positions on the field at all.
They just cluster together and travel in this giant chaotic swarm, chasing directly behind the ball.
And in a shifting downward market, nervous professionals do the exact same thing.
A real estate agent, terrified of losing a client, will nervously shave a property's price down just a tiny incremental bit at a time.
Landing just behind where the buyers actually are. They drop the price to reflect where the market was yesterday, rather than where it's going to be tomorrow.
What's fascinating here is how predicting the future, positioning a listing where the market will be in 30 days, is the only way to get ahead of the slide.
Because they're reacting out of fear, the property just rides the market slide all the way to the bottom.
And the agent ultimately takes the blame.
Exactly. It requires the emotional fortitude to stop chasing the ball, break away from the chaotic pack, and run to where the ball is going.
But possessing that kind of foresight requires a massive reserve of emotional resilience.
And that resilience is the very first thing to evaporate when a professional environment gets hostile.
Because these traps, the waiting, the endless grading, the reactive chasing, they aren't just bad strategy.
No, they're deeply rooted in emotional avoidance and ego protection.
Which brings us to trap number 4, hiding behind text. Because people have completely drained their energy overanalyzing everything, they take the path of least resistance.
They hide. And in the modern professional landscape, the ultimate hiding place is text-based communication.
And the source material violently highlights how destructive this is in a sales environment.
An agent will let an agonizing 20-minute text thread drag on over an issue that a 2-minute vocal conversation could easily settle.
I do have to challenge the premise slightly here, just based on, modern workplace culture.
Okay, let's hear it.
Isn't texting or using Slack or Teams just the de facto way of doing business now? It's asynchronous, it respects people's time, it creates a paper trail. Why does the author view it so negatively?
Well, the distinction isn't about the technology itself. Text is a perfectly fine tool for, confirming an appointment time.
Right, or sending an address.
But in a high-stakes, tough market, it ceases to be a tool of efficiency and becomes a psychological shield.
A hiding place.
Yes. Tone gets catastrophically misread. Crucial terms get buried. Deals stall out over minor misunderstandings that a real conversation could resolve immediately.
Because in a real conversation, you can hear empathy, you can hear humor.
Exactly. The issue is the intent. They are using text specifically to replace the emotionally riskier phone call.
It's an emotional buffer zone. You don't have to hear the rejection in their voice.
You just send the bad news and put your phone face down on the desk.
One of the related readings literally spells this out. The title is The Secret to Growing Your Real Estate Business. Answer your friggin' phone.
It cuts right through the corporate jargon. If you want to survive the downturn, you have to embrace the friction of actual human connection.
Step out from behind the screen.
Yes, and this desire to escape friction leads directly to trap number 5. The authors call it listening to the siren song.
Oh, the Homer's Odyssey analogy. The sirens were these mythical creatures on rocky islands who sang a song so impossibly beautiful it lured passing sailors to crash their ships.
The modern professional equivalent is that quiet voice in your head that starts violently romanticizing a completely different career path the moment your current one gets difficult.
It whispers, hey, maybe I should just abandon this and go back to a safe corporate salary.
Or maybe I should move to the woods and open a bakery.
It's so true. The grass always looks unimaginably green on the other side of a market crash.
But while that fantasy song plays on a loop in their mind, it's quietly stealing their present moment.
It consumes the mental bandwidth they desperately need to do the actual work.
They are mentally crashing their professional ship onto the rocks of daydreaming.
And the reason we want to escape our reality so badly comes down to the final trap, taking it personally.
The ultimate ego bruise.
Think about the feeling of making calls for 2 hours and going straight to voicemail over and over.
Seeing your number pop up as spam, likely on their screen.
And knowing they're actively hitting the ignore button.
The human brain is hardwired to fear social rejection. When a market contracts, professionals start to treat the silence as a definitive personal verdict on their own worth.
Right, your nervous system registers that as the tribe rejecting you.
But the source material is completely uncompromising on this point. A slow market is a math problem and a mindset problem. It is never a personal insult.
When you take it personally, frustration metastasizes into avoidance.
Which means your outreach dries up at the exact moment your pipeline needs it most.
So if you're listening to this and you feel that hot sting of rejection today, a client ghosts you, an email is left on read, you have to reframe that input.
It is just math, a statistical probability playing out in a tight economy, not a commentary on your human value.
Okay, so we've diagnosed the traps, the waiting, the grading, the chasing, the hiding, the siren song, and taking it personally.
We know the pathology.
But how do we actually pull out of the dive? What's the leadership antidote to rescue a team from this mental spiral?
This is where it gets highly actionable. It all centers on a radical shift in focus. You have to acknowledge what you cannot control.
You can't lower national interest rates. You can't change the season.
But you can absolutely control consistent daily activity.
The author introduces this framework from their Power Agent coaching program that crystallizes this. It's an investment analogy.
Timing the market versus dollar cost averaging. Every financial advisor will tell you the most destructive thing you can do is attempt to time the stock market.
You can't predict the absolute bottom to buy in or the peak to sell.
The people who build real wealth invest a set, boring amount of money on a rigid schedule, regardless of whether the market is booming or bleeding.
Dollar cost averaging.
Right. And you map this concept onto sales activity. Guessing the perfect day to call a tough lead is a fool's errand. You'll always lose.
The win isn't executing one perfect, magical phone call.
The win is establishing the rhythm of showing up every single week at the exact same time and investing your effort.
You are dollar cost averaging your professional effort.
Exactly.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because the text doesn't just offer empty platitudes like work harder. It outlines the specific, frictionless mechanical systems a leader must provide.
A leader can't just demand higher activity. They have to proactively engineer the environment.
The text is so granular about this. It says leaders need to hand their agents the exact words to say.
Give them the meticulously tested voicemail scripts.
Hand them the specific dialogue trees for those FSBO calls that are mathematically proven to work.
Do not force a stressed, anxious professional to invent the wheel every single time they pick up the phone.
And it goes even deeper, setting the team up with rotating local phone numbers so calls don't get flagged as spam.
Teaching the muscle memory of sending a quick templated text immediately after a voicemail to double the chances of contact.
All of these tactics serve one psychological goal, drastically lowering the cognitive load.
Going back to the Netflix analogy, we discussed how evaluating options drains energy.
By providing the scripts, the clean numbers, the automated templates, a leader removes all that operational friction.
The professional doesn't have to figure out how to do the task. They just have to execute the reps.
And once the friction is removed, then comes the accountability.
But leaders have to completely change the metrics they track.
In a boom, you manage by looking at the scoreboard, right? Contract signed, revenue generated.
But in a slow market, those results are suppressed by external forces. If you only hold your team accountable to final results, you trigger a shame spiral.
They work hard, see zero results because the market is frozen, get discouraged, and stop entirely.
Therefore, you pivot to tracking the activity itself, the number of outbound dials, the number of live conversations had.
Because if the foundational activity is maintained, the results are a mathematical inevitability once the pressure lifts.
Good leadership in a crisis is about protecting the mindset of the team.
Standing next to them, helping them silence the siren song, and keeping them in forward motion.
Which is why the author notes that the absolute best producers in the industry still demand to be coached every single week.
Even the millionaire top performers.
They know their own brains will betray them when things get hard. They need an external force to keep their eyes on the fundamental work.
They need someone to ensure they keep dollar cost averaging their effort.
Exactly.
So let's summarize everything for the listener. The core message here is surprisingly optimistic.
In any kind of professional slowdown, the ultimate victors are rarely the most naturally talented people in the room.
The victors are simply the most relentlessly consistent.
They're the ones who meticulously execute the boring tasks while their competitors are paralyzed, waiting for a sign that the water is safe.
They're the ones whose leaders handed them the tools, held them to the activity, and told them to put wax in their ears to block out the siren song.
And effort matters more now than ever because your competition is quite literally sitting on their hands.
When the economy gets cold, the tourists go home.
The professionals who show up and do the unglamorous work are quietly capturing massive market share that their fearful competitors just left unguarded.
It's the absolute best time to build an unbreakable foundation. Which brings us all the way back to the image we started with.
The diving board.
Yeah, standing on the edge, shivering, waiting for the ripples to clear, waiting for perfectly smooth water.
The ultimate truth is that the water is never going to be perfectly smooth.
The market will always have ripples.
The only variable in the entire equation that you actually have control over is the jump itself. The current doesn't care how long you wait.
But your future absolutely does.
So I want to leave you with the final lingering question to ponder.
Lay it on us.
If consistency and a complete refusal to time the market are the ultimate predictors of success in a shifting landscape, what other areas of your own life are you quietly self-sabotaging by waiting for the perfect conditions to finally take action?
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Now go make the jump.